This stupid mic. It's not. I'm not going to comment, but it's limp. No, I can't do it. I can't work with this.
I can't breathe.
I'm sorry.
Oh no, is this how we're starting the podcast this week?
Are your ideas falling flat? I can't. Okay. I was screwing the wrong thing. Sorry. Oh wow.
No. Well, welcome to the Big Money Stylist Podcast.
And there's a hair. Sorry. I got a hairy limp mic. Oh no. Okay. Woo. Sorry, those pregnant hormones will get you.
I can't breathe now.
I think I'm like purple. I think I'm purple. Okay.
Hold on, wait.
Welcome. Ooh, okay, what's our topic?
Look, okay. Oh my gosh. I can't breathe. Hi, welcome to the Big Money Stylist Podcast. I'm your co-host, Ani Rivera, and this is my other co-host. I know, I said co-host.
I'm your hostess with the mostest. We do a podcast. Now I have the giggles and I can't stop.
We do a podcast every week to talk about natural beaded rose, the hair extension method that Danielle created, along with Big Money Stylist, which is the business, marketing, and sales that all go into DKW Styling Academy, which is created to help guide and support artists down a path of truly having freedom inside of their life, having more income, and really having the clients that they want to have in their chair. That's as good as this intro is going to be.
That is great because it gave me a minute to when you're like laughing for so like the dumbest reasons and they almost turn into tears.
Yes, I do. But you know what? Let's start with fucked up, fired up.
Okay,
nothing business related, only personal.
Man, I feel like mine are boring.
I'm like, good. I want to hear it.
My okay, fired up. I got nothing.
You have nothing you're excited about in your personal life right now.
I've been married for 18 years. I celebrated my 18th year anniversary.
Oh, congratulations.
That's
a big deal.
You know, I was telling my husband, I'm like, oh my God, I've been with him for like half my life. Like literally. I know. And you know what's so funny is I always tell Garrett, I'm like, I'm like, I know I'm 38, but like, I feel like I'm like at a place of like a 50-year-old, but I feel like that sounds crazy, but I feel like I started life so early. Like I went to one semester of college. I met Garrett. I got married by 18. By the time we got married, I already had my hair license. I was already in my career, but like 10 years into my career, I started my brand. Like I feel like I've done a lot in a short period of time, and plus I'm on number 4 baby. I'm like, wow, when I step back and think about it, I guess I'm like, wow, I feel like I have a lot of life experiences. So even though I'm 38, I'm like, yeah, I got some reps on being married. I've been with this guy for 20 years. Yeah, I have some reps on business. I've been in my craft 20 years, half my life. So I guess that's what I'm fired up about. About life and being married for...
Look at you, you old bitch.
Yeah, and you know what? I got a cute bracelet for our anniversary, which
cute.
I didn't know. This is a Cartier bracelet, and I didn't know like you had to like turn a key.
Oh yeah, sometimes I knew someone who actually super glued it. Now they can never take it off.
I literally was like, oh, those bracelets are cute. Garrett's like, what do you want for your anniversary? I'm like, oh, I want one of those Cartier bracelets. Like, I think they're cute, and yeah, let's get one. So it has 4 diamonds to signify, or for 4 girls, which I thought was cute.
Oh yeah.
But he's like, you had to go into the store. They had to lock it on you, and I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for that.
You're like, now this is too much commitment.
I don't know if I can commit to that. 4 babies and married for 20 years. Sure, a bracelet?
Too far.
No, nope.
So what's something fucked up that happened this past week?
Like bad?
Yeah.
Like I'm just so mad.
You don't have to be furious.
So furious.
Or something funny and weird.
It's always about my daughter Isla. So she's 2 years old and she's still throwing her food, right? Yeah. I shared this on another podcast. She goes, all done, and she throws her food. And then when I say no and I give her attention, she thinks it's funny. So I've stopped giving her attention. She stopped throwing her food, but now she's so funny. Anytime she does something naughty, she goes, Mom, smack my hand. Like she's kind of like, I'm ready for the consequence. Smack my hand. I'm ready to move on with this shit. Like, just let's get it over with. I'm still going to throw my food. So I'm like, how funny. It's mind. It's so funny how little kids' minds work. And they're like, oh, so I can still throw my food if all I get is a smack on the hand. That's fine. Smack my hand, Mom. I want to throw my food. Like,
oh my, see.
Which, you know what, could tie into a topic today of like, how many times do we look at the the result as an adult and we're like, yeah, that's worth it. Okay, that's fine.
Hey, you know what they say? Ask for permission, ask for forgiveness, not permission.
I love that statement. That's a great statement.
Same. So my fucked up. Okay, well, we actually had some friends over the other night. So we have 2 Frenchies and then a German Shepherd Poodle. She's 75 pounds. She's a delight. And then our friends brought over 2 English Bulldogs. One is like 65 pounds and the other, her name is Joey.
Yeah, I saw it.
Oh my God, she's so sweet. But she's actually a road dog's rescue. So she's kind of like...
What's a road dogs?
Road dog is a company that they actually help animals that have been abused or they're potentially like being raised to be mistreated and then like eaten in weird countries. Yeah. Or like literally skinned for it's
Whose dog is that one?
It's Joe, or not Joe, Mo and Emily.
Oh.
Yeah, but Joey's her name. So our friends adopted this dog and she's so stinking cute. So they brought them over. So then we had 5 dogs in the house. Man, so it's kind of, I realized my dog Luna's a dick. She doesn't mean to be. She's a baby. She's one.
Baby. She's the baby.
Yeah. And so she would start running up to the bulldogs and like yapping at them and she wouldn't stop. So we were basically like, you know what? You guys are going to have to figure out who's alpha here. You deal with it. You know what got Luna to stop barking?
The little ones always want to be alpha.
The boy, Loki, tried to mount her, and she literally...
She's all, oh, shit.
Yeah, she ran and hid under the dining room table chairs, and we were crying. We're like, well, stop doing this. A little fucked up, but it was really funny.
He's like, I'll show you who's boss. She's like, ah!
Literally.
That scared me, too.
Excited, though. I'm really excited about this. Guess what?
You get your car.
I do, but something better than that.
Okay, better.
I have my first official surf trip booked and ready to go.
Where are you going?
Costa Rica!
Oh, who are you going with?
Me, Steven, and then Mo, my surf coach, and his wife, Emily.
Costa Rica. When are you going?
We are actually going for Christmas. We leave on the 20th. We come back the 27th.
It's supposed to rain there a lot, but when is not the rainy season?
It's not raining when we're going.
Oh, I want to go there.
So I'm really excited, which is where I kind of want to like talk about today's topic. Because you know what? Do you know that was my goal for actually 2022?
Was to surf?
No, to go to Costa Rica on a surf
Oh.
trip. I said by the time 2022 comes, some point, like I told myself in January 2021, I said, I want to get good enough at surfing this year that by 2022, I can go on a surf trip. And I think it's so funny that sometimes we almost, not like overshoot, but like we think, ooh, that's way too far out. Like it's gonna take me years to get there. I'm never gonna get there. And it's so crazy. So you guys know I talk about it on my Instagram and on the podcast that I started surfing. I went down a whole another foot, so I'm down to a 6-foot foam top, and my hard top, it's on its way. It's being made.
But you also committed though.
Hardcore.
Yes, and you know what? You and I are very similar in the sense that if I don't commit to a lot, but if I commit, I'm all in. I'm like, okay. And it's funny for me, and I don't know if you experience this too. Like the minute I know that I've committed in my head, I can already see the surf. I don't surf, but I can already kind of see the outcome, and it's so real for me that I'm like, yeah, I already made up my mind. Like that's where I'm going. I've already seen it. Like you can't stop me now. I've already seen it because of your commitment level.
Well, and it's so crazy because at the beginning of the year, I sat there and I was like, it almost, and I know a lot of business owners and hairstylists that work with us can really say the same thing where you're like, ooh, I want to start this business. And you're kind of like, oh man, that's going to take a lot of work. I don't know if I can do it. And it's a lot of well, what if this and what if that and what if this and what if that? And it's, to me, I literally we always say take it a step at a time and don't get too far ahead of yourself.
Yeah. And I think that we put sometimes we put weird time frames on things where we're like, oh, that's 5 years out. That's 2 years out. Whatever it is, when we really have no concept of we don't know. It might not actually take that long. Yeah. And I really think it depends on how much you commit, because I think a lot of times we say, I want that. But if you don't take the actions to move towards that goal, just because you're working really, really hard doesn't mean that that's going to be your outcome after working really, really hard. And I'll give you an example. Yeah. Garrett and I really wanted the house that we're in, right? Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, when our kids are in high school, that's going to be my goal. And it was just there was no clear action or path or how we were going to get there. I just assumed based on the pace and how we were currently working, that was the time frame I gave myself. I was like, yeah in 10 years, we'll be there, or 8 years, we'll be there, whatever it is. And then it's so funny because I didn't really put more thought into it than that. And then the opportunity came as like, hey, this might actually be doable sooner than later. What would you have to do to make this happen? And it really, when you entertain that idea, I think it puts perspective on the time frame. So not only is it a level of commitment, but you literally have to entertain, okay, where do I start and what does it look like to achieve your end goal?
Well, and not only that, for me, it doesn't look the same every day. Like, it's not always a straight path. Right. Sometimes it is a little bit jagged. And a really good example, sorry, I'm going back to my surfing because that's what like brought us here. I actually went 100% surfing by myself last week. So
you did?
Yes, and I'm really proud of that.
That scared me. I'd be like, what if I drowned?
I mean, honestly, I kind of had that moment. Well, last week was a really big week. The waves were up to like 9 feet high.
Where'd you go?
I went to Laguna Beach. I did decide, I was like, okay, my surf coach was a little bit sick. He wasn't feeling like he was recovering from like a flu, and Steven was at work. So I was like, you know what? You want to go surfing. You're going to do it by yourself.
Eventually you're going to have to do it on your own.
Yeah. So I really going into it, I'm like, do I feel 100% prepared? No, I really don't, but I want to try this. And in my mind, I was also like, well, what's the worst that happens? The worst that happens is you get out there, you realize it's way too big. You don't paddle out. The worst that can happen is a wave wipes your ass out. And guess what? It's happened a million times. Walk back to the shore. You're good to go. And I'll tell you.
You're at a point now where like you know what to do if something happens.
Yeah, don't freak out. I'll tell you, the worst thing that happened is I got a new GoPro and I have like a chest harness for it. Yeah, I lost it within 12 seconds of paddling out. I'm paddling. I had to like duck dive under a wave. Went under, came up, touched my chest, fucking gone.
Why? How? I saw your story and
I
was
what's
like,
so funny, which I want to address this too. A lot of people were like, you need to call whoever, make them send you a new one. I'm like, user error.
Oh, really?
I fucked up.
I wondered. I was like, where did you put it?
I messed up. I put it in the harness, but I didn't snap it down all the way. I messed up. I would never, even if like, yes, GoPro could afford to send me a new one. It's not about that. It's I made a mistake and I have to assume responsibility for that. So honestly, I sat there for a second laughing and I was like, you can't sit here. Like the wave's going to knock your ass out. Keep going. But that day, it was really cool. Even though I didn't feel 100% prepared, like sometimes artists don't when they're taking new NBR clients or you're starting marketing for a new company.
That's how you have to start.
Literally.
You're never going to get over that feeling unless you start doing something.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, when I was sitting out there, because I did the same thing we always do. I'm like, okay, you're going to watch the wave. There's a set, wait, another set. Okay, time to go. And then I was like, okay, there's a bunch of people there. That's a really good spot, but I don't want to be by people. There's people over there. You're going to go here. I had to like make the same decisions, but really just rely on myself and also like course correct along the way.
You know what I think too is, and I used to say this to myself all the time, because we have like tangible goals, right? But then we have this thing where we say like, that's not me. That's not my personality. That's not who I am. So I can't do that. We literally limit ourselves based on who we believe ourselves to be as a person, right? So I'm kind of shy. I'm a little bit introverted. I've definitely grown out of it as I've gotten older, but I'm still like a pretty private person. But it's so funny because as a hairstylist, there's a lot of introverted hairstylists who are kind of really into the art, and we hear this all the time. Students are like, "Oh, you don't understand. Like you and Ani are so good in the camera, and you're so da-da-da." And
we weren't always.
Exactly. And Ani, you're more extroverted than I am, but even then, it still takes reps, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think we put limits on ourselves based on like who we think we are. Like honestly, I remember being when I first moved to California. And I would shoot with Jeremy. And this was like the first time I hired a professional videographer. Like, I would get in my bathroom and it was filming myself. Nobody was actually holding a camera. It was less pressure. It was just like, screw it. It's social media, you know? But this was like the first time I started like paying for somebody to actually sit and film me that I wanted to create more professional content. And I was like, I just come across either like I can't get my words out or I seem really stiff and robotic. And I was so frustrated at myself. I was like, and I could have been like, fuck it. I don't need to be on video. I don't need to do it. Like, I'll just do the art and I can just type out what I want to say and it's fine. I don't need to put myself out there like that. It's not me. I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to do it. So we say, I'm not good at it, so I'm not going to do it. And I hate when I tell myself like that's not me and you're not good at it, so you can't do it. And I remember I had this moment where I snapped. And this is when I really realized like your success is based on your level of commitment and the work that you do to back up that commitment. And I remember thinking like, shit, okay, you know what? I'm not going to get any better on film. I'm not, unless I have a frame, I prepare my content, and I have reps behind the camera.
Well, and not only that, I know like even when I was sitting out there, I had a moment where I'm watching these group of guys that have obviously been doing this for guys. I've only been surfing for like 7 months to today, like 7 months. Yeah. And I'm watching them. And for a minute, because I was decently far away, but they could still see me, this like lone girl with a big yellow board. And I had a moment of like, oh my God, you're going to look so stupid if you try.
Right.
Like literally, I'm watching the waves and I'm kind of figuring out, I'm like, ooh, okay, that's a good one. That's not, this is good. That's not. But like watching them like catch wave after wave after wave. And I'm like, oh my God, if they, and I literally had a moment of like, maybe, you know what, maybe I'll just wait. Yeah. Maybe I'll come back a different day. Maybe I'll come back earlier. Maybe I'll try when like, quote unquote, no one's watching. Right. And I really did probably sit there for a few minutes thinking about this. And then I remembered something that my coach said. So surfers who are kind of like douchebags are known as being a kook. And he told me once, he's like, you're not a kook if you don't know how to surf. He's like, you're actually a kook if you don't follow etiquette. Yeah. And I really thought about that because a lot of artists, they're like, well, I don't want to fail. And you're not a failure if you try and you don't do it perfectly. Right. You're a failure if you never give it any effort at all. Like if you quit before you even give yourself a chance, then you're a fucking failure. And so I was like, I tried to catch a bunch. In an hour, I only caught 3 waves. But let me say, catching them by yourself, choosing them, paddling out at the right time, like that's actually a really big accomplishment. And here, I always feel like you get like moments, or it's almost like the universe lets you know like, hey, you did it. And here was my moment. Finally, after an hour, I was like, whoo, done, exhausted, I'm out. So I get out of the water, I'm walking back up, I'm putting my board back in my car, and I hear someone go, Ani? And I look up and it's my surf coach. And I was like,
really?
Yeah, I was like, hey, what are you doing here? And he's like, I woke up feeling better today. I'm going to do a lesson, see how like I feel. I'm like, oh, that's awesome. And he's like, wait, did you go out there? I was like, yeah, I did. And he's like, by yourself? I'm like, yeah, I did it. And he was like, holy shit, that's amazing. And he was with another girl I didn't realize was one of his coaches. And she goes, I saw you. Oh. She goes, you did really well. She's like, you really committed to some big waves. And I was like, it wasn't that bad. It was okay. But that was a moment of like, I'm so glad I did it. Even though I was 0% sure of myself. I was very uncertain if I could pull it off. Standing on the shore, I was like, these waves are pretty big. Normally I would not do that by myself. I lost my GoPro within 12 seconds.
Yeah, you could have lost your GoPro, let it like ruin your day and been like, whatever.
Yeah, and like there were a lot of moments where I could have made an excuse to stop. I could have made an excuse to give in. Or just like it almost like, quote unquote, take it as a sign. Because I sometimes hate when people are like, well, it didn't work, so it's a sign I shouldn't. I'm like, maybe it's a sign you just need to try harder.
I will say whenever I get things where I'm like, maybe it's not meant to be, I'm like, oh no, fuck that. It's now, I am on a mission.
I'm going to fucking make it meant to be. Yeah, and that's what I think is so cool, that even though like every part of me was unsure from choosing the wave, paddling out, being in the right area, getting on the wave. No part of me was certain. By the end of it, I was so glad I just tried. Yeah. I stayed. I tried and I gave it everything. So then even if it did not work and I caught 0 waves, Mo even tells me, my coach always tells me, he's like, even if you go out and you're like, ooh, I can't, it's too small or it's a little bit too gnarly, he goes, go out farther and just paddle. Yeah. Practice paddling. And I think that's really important for all of the artists here who are involved in NBR and in the academy to really think about, because I know so many of you, I've messaged probably about 175 artists this week, and a lot of artists, and so many came back to me and they're like, I'm like, why haven't you turned in your assignments? And they're like, they go, I have all the photos, it's just not perfect.
You know what I love is, I love the person that like is a student, and it's probably even been me at many times where they seem a little off. But they almost like don't care, that they're like, I don't care, come hell or high water. Like, I'm going to keep fucking up. I'm going to keep doing it. And I love watching that progression, and not only myself, but my students. Yeah. And I think you can really appreciate it when you've worked really hard to get somewhere in your life. Look at somebody else, continue to just stand up. Just a wave hits them and they keep standing up. A wave hits them and they keep standing up. And eventually you're a little less shitty every day to, at one point, you're now pretty good. And then from pretty good to the expert. And everybody can look back and be like, wow. And it's because they just kept standing up.
Well, and even having gone down to like a 6-foot board, I mean, the first probably week I went out, I almost literally like broke down in tears one day because I was so bad. Like, I was used to being pretty good, just like our artists who they're like, I'm good at hair, and then they start in PR and they're like, I'm so bad.
I don't want to. This is hard to be bad at something when you're good at so many other things.
Yeah, and I was really, really bad. Like I literally could not stand up. But now, having worked so hard for the past few weeks, so it's really I've only had that board for like maybe a month and a half now, that going through, now that I have a new board coming in, that board's going to be even harder. It's smaller. It's not as buoyant. It's shaped differently to like cut through water where half an inch of looking left or right wrong, you're fucked. You're off this board. Like there's no room for error now. But what I love is I'm not looking at it like, oh, this board's going to wreck me. It's going to be a shitstorm. I'm looking at it as like, if I could overcome this, I am now prepared for the next difficult thing to come.
Right.
I'm more prepared for the next thing that's going to push me, the next thing that's going to test me, the next thing that will make me truly want to give up, but I'm not going to.
I think too, and I will say there's a lot of artists to where, we work really hard to get good at, our craft. And it's almost harder to be, like you said, to suck at something. Yeah. Because you're like, like you're charging a certain price, and all of a sudden you're like introducing this new service and you don't have that certainty and you don't have that confidence, and you're like, you hold your identity in this person that you've become, and now you're like, fuck, I gotta start down here, and I work so hard to get here. But that's what life's about. It's not like you just become an expert of all things. There's always another level to growth and success and surfing and whatever it may be. And you can be an expert at one thing, but so many people, again, it's an ego and an identity thing where they're like, I'm not willing to suck because I feel so awesome over here. But then you really are limiting yourself what you can do. And in my experience, like when I think about like my fitness journey, like the person I became in fitness, I was like, holy shit, it took my business, which I thought I was already an expert in this and that. It took even my business and my certainty and my confidence there to another level. So I think it's so important to remember, like, if you're really good at something, it's okay to not be good at something else. And if you challenge yourself, it might even help you get to the next level in the area that you're already really, really fucking good at.
And I totally agree with that, because it gives you a sense of confidence, and not in like, I'm so great.
It's certainty.
But I feel like it's almost like confidence in like, you know what? I'm going to make it work no matter what.
Yeah.
I am going to figure this out. Maybe not because I'm the smartest, maybe not because I'm the best, maybe not because I'm the fastest, but because I am committed to a particular outcome. And even now, I've been surfing for 7 months, and where the hell are we at now? August, September, October, November, December. I have 4 months to not only get my new board, which comes beginning of December. That gives me less than 3 weeks to be able to ride that before we're in Costa Rica. So now I've also given myself an even like shorter time crunch of like, we can't fuck around anymore. Like, we are committed to this. We're staying in the jungle, because Mo said we could take a jungle tour and I could hold a sloth. I'm really excited.
I don't know what a sloth is.
A little sloth. They hang from the trees really lazy with the big fingers.
Is that
They're so cute.
I was like, what Disney show is that?
It is the one with the fox, and he is the sloth is the one in the DMV, and he's so
I was like, what Disney movie is that? The sloth.
Yes, that's the sloth. But we're literally staying in the jungle, and I was like, Mo, can I feed the monkeys? So in case my surf coach was a safari guide in South Africa, and he's like, no.
Are you staying in one of like you're staying in like one of the huts?
Ma'am, no, we're in an Airbnb. It's really nice.
Spiders.
No, we're in a really nice Airbnb with a pool and 3 bedrooms.
Okay, I was like, because I've seen the surf trips him and Garrett have gone on, and I'm like, are you guys camping in the woods? Where are you?
No, girl.
And Garrett will show me pictures of, I kid you not, spiders like the big as my hand. I'm like,
for future reference, Mo told me about that spider, and he said all the men there scream like a little fucking girl.
Oh yeah, Garrett's so funny. He's so scared of spiders. Like, there's a spider, and he's like, "Wow!" I'm like, "I got it, babe." It's okay.
It's a tiny little one with no teeth.
Yeah, literally. He'll be like, "Oh," I'm like, "I know."
Love that. But yeah, that's why I think, like, if you're sitting there and you're listening to this, especially I feel like for new business owners who are starting something new, I know it can be very overwhelming, because all of a sudden you're like, "Oh my gosh, I have this product that I'm trying to make, or this skill I'm trying to learn, and then I have to make a website, and then I have to do marketing, and then I have to do this, then I have to make videos," and a lot of doubt can creep in, and goals can feel so far away. They really can. And you sometimes tell yourself, you're like, I won't be there for 5 years, 3 years too. But you'll really be surprised if you truly commit to something on the days when you're great and the days when you're honestly a total sack of shit and you feel terrible, you feel like a failure, you feel like you're gonna cry. Like I said, that happened to me. The only reason I didn't cry in the ocean that day is because it was me, my boyfriend, my coach, and one of his other students, and I was like, you can't look like a little bitch right now. You suck it up.
You suck those tears back.
You don't get to cry.
I also think too, like we have to be really patient with ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Like I think people expect results within like weeks or months. And although you can have some results, you really have to be patient, honestly.
Consistency is what births results.
Yeah. I can't remember. I was scrolling on social media and it was like, you would never like water a seed and expect it to bloom overnight.
Yeah.
So I think that that's like one thing with myself is I always tell myself like, okay, progress, as long as you have tangible benchmarks and goals, that's so important, because without that, you are kind of just like working and you're like, but I committed. But that doesn't mean you can't like work and course correct along the way. You have to set tangible benchmarks along the way. We had a team meeting today, and I'm constantly like, you guys, I need time frames, because for me, time frames and benchmarks makes me feel like, okay, we hit that goal, what's next? And I see a lot more progress when we do that, because otherwise we have a lot of really great ideas, but if you don't give yourself deadlines, things take a little bit longer.
And also, when you're doing something, I'm going to use NBR as a really great example. There's sectioning, there's beadwork, placing hair, stitching, end beads, the cut, the style, there's photos, there's so much involved that a lot of artists, and they're like, I want to be great at everything now, which I understand. Once again, back to surfing though. When I would watch my coach surf, he can do all these like, up, down, doing all the things. And I would watch and I'd be like, I want to do all of it. And I realized like you can't. You're not going to be able to do everything at once. So sometimes with NBR, for example, maybe it's your beadwork you're struggling with most. You do like a hyper focus on that. Maybe you're just beading 2 rows a day just to get more repetition in the thing that you're weakest at, to then build up your confidence and your skill level.
Right.
Maybe it's coloring wefts. So you just buy some cheap wefts so you can practice color root and keep going because it's repetition. Yeah. If you're waiting for that quote unquote perfect moment to practice, like, I'm sorry, it doesn't work that way.
I think what's frustrating for me is I think as, you know, we find areas in our life or in our business where we're like, this needs to change. So we purchase the software, we purchase the class, we purchase whatever it is, and then we still won't commit to doing the work or putting in the time. And I always say, I've said this on so many podcasts, I'm like, buying the tool doesn't equal success.
That's
like,
the easy part.
Is literally the easy part. So I always tell people, I'm like, you honestly, if you're going to take the time to purchase this program, like, if you don't use it, you'll lose it.
Absolutely.
Like, literally, like when people come take classes, I'm always like, you guys, when you get home, get your models in the door. Like, you need to have a list of things and timelines. Otherwise, 2 weeks go, 3 weeks go by, all of a sudden you're like, shit, I don't even remember how to put a bead on. All of a sudden you're so busy and you're so hyper-focused in your color corrections and whatever. Literally a year goes by and you're like, God, I had really good intentions and zero follow-through. So don't lose that momentum. There's obviously something in your gut that calls to take a class, that is called to buy a product or a software, whatever it is. Like, don't lose that feeling. Like, take the class and use that momentum. Like, commit, and don't say like, oh, I got so much going on and then I'm going to commit.
Yeah.
Commit while you have momentum.
And so, guys, the biggest piece that I can leave you with is the goals that you're aiming for can and will be so much closer if you just commit and you get past the ego, you get past the fear, you get past the stress, you get past the not wanting to look stupid or whatever it is. Get past that, because once you're past that, I'm telling you, your goals will come up faster than you could ever imagine. But if you allow yourself to stay in a place of like fear and stress all the time, especially that place of like, well, I don't want to look stupid, well, then you're never going to go anywhere, because honestly, we all have to look a little bit dumb sometimes to make changes.
I had been doing hair for 10 years, which at the time I was like, I've been doing hair for a while. And I remember I had no money. I literally was like, well, I don't want to feel stupid. Like, nobody was really on social media. There was no reels. There was no TikToks. There's none of that shit. There was very few people even on YouTube. And me being super shy and introverted, I was like, hairstylists don't do that. I don't know. I think the only person that was like on YouTube at the time was Guy Tang or something.
Mm-hmm.
And he was wild. And I was like, I am not like Guy Tang at all. Like, I was like, what am I going to say? And I was like, I just kept saying, do you have another idea, Danielle? Is there a better option? You need to make changes. You know that this might help. why don't you just do it? And I remember I did my first YouTube video. I didn't know how to edit. I didn't know how to do any of that. I just was like, close my eyes, post it, like whatever. And I thought I'd get millions of views. And I think it got like a couple hundred views, which I was like, oh, great. But out of doing that one video, I got 3 clients.
Very cool.
3 clients. And I was like, fuck yeah, you bet I'll feel stupid all day long. I can't pay my bills. I got 2 kids. Yeah, bring it on. I was like, I don't care anymore. So I love when I see this level of hunger and commitment with people where they're like, I'll fall on my face 75 times and eventually I won't fall on my face. And all of you guys that are looking and thinking I look stupid, you're going to ask me how I got here. So I think it's so, so important to get out of your head. I don't care how experienced you are. I don't care what level of success you have inside of your business. There is always another level of success. And Ani and I were actually talking about this in a training today. I'm like, there's infinite amount of growth here. Like there really is. So just when you think you hit the checklist and you've made it and you're like, God, I think I'm happy, but why is something inside me want more? That feeling's okay. But to get to the next level, you have to get a little bit uncomfortable again.
So guys, thank you for being with us here on the BMS, the Big Money Stylist Podcast. We currently do have DKW Styling Academy is open enrollment currently. And so that includes everything inside of NBR, which is Natural Beaded Rose, the art in behind the chair, and BMS, the business and marketing sales that really supports NBR and brings artists to a whole nother level. If you want more information, you can go to nbr.education and it talks all about the academy, what's involved, and what it looks like.
Just think of it as like your accountability buddy. All the things that we weren't taught in hair school, all the things that our industry does one way, the academy is here to teach you another way. And it's not just about being a hairstylist. It's about being a businessman or woman, an entrepreneur, and using the art and the hair as the tool to make money.
So guys, thanks for being here with us, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.